The Buffalo Sabres continue to be consistently inconsistent. We take a deep dive into what exactly is going on with this team. All this and more on this edition of the Buffalonian Podcast. All right, let's go. We are back with the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Cali. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. And Dom, we're going to keep it light on the Bills news today. The only thing I'm going to say is Gabe Davis posted an 8-minute goodbye pretty much to Bills Mafia. Kind of surreal. You wouldn't we've talked about it. He is going to walk, but a couple years ago after his 4-touchdown performance against Kansas City in the divisional round, this isn't a time you necessarily see in the future. So just you want to give a quick thought, quick goodbye to Gabe Davis. Thought. Yeah, a quick thought on Gabe. Big game, Gabe.
Definitely a great return of investment on a 4th-round draft pick.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think it's just a situation where I think the team would want him back. I think he would want to be back, but just anyone that says the cap is a myth, like eventually it comes up to you with these decisions, and it seems to me that they had a decision to either pay Dawson Knox or pay Gabe Davis, and they decided to pay Dawson Knox. And
yeah, I saw that this morning. It was the money that is going to Dawson Knox is the thing that's prohibiting the Bills from bringing Gabe Davis back. So unfortunate at the end of the day, but you got to move on at some point. And he didn't have the best season last year, so it's a time where a lot of people expected it. We expect him to walk simply because the money, like we said. So
yeah, I think he has underrated value in the blocking and leadership. Maybe not so much the receiving of the position of wide receiver, which is weird to say, but
right.
He's been a great player for this organization for the past 4 years. We wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully, honestly, I'm hopeful he gets the bag because that will help the Bills get a good comp pick, like Tremaine did, and
right.
Who knows? Maybe it's a situation I saw someone talk about. Maybe it's like Shaq Lawson. He gets the bag, and then after that contract comes back and plays with the Bills when the cap is all figured out. I don't know, but
you never know. At the end of the day, anything can happen. I've seen him already mocked to KC, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I don't know. That could be dangerous, but this pod is focused on one team today, and one team only, and that is the disappointing Buffalo Sabres, to say the least. They win 7-0. I get texts from a couple of my friends. This team's back. We're back to what we used to be. No. They go right back to this season form the next game. Just lose to the Panthers 4-0. They come off a 7-0 shutout. They get shut out 4-0 at home. We got a lot to talk about. Dom, to scratch the surface, what do you before we deep dive here, what do you think? We haven't really gone deep into the Sabres in the past couple weeks, so interested to hear your thoughts.
I don't think it's a microcosm of their season. They win a game 7-0, they lose the next game 4-0. They win an exciting 3-2 overtime road game against Minnesota, scoring with 38 seconds left to tie the game. Really quality win, and they come back home and they just completely blow a game against the Ducks, who are one of the worst teams in the league. I want to say they went 0-2 against the Ducks, and that's 0 for 4 in points against one of the worst. If you're not going to get the 4 points against the Ducks,
you're not going
to make the playoffs.
Nope.
And it's frustrating because they really played pretty well, yesterday, but just turnovers. I didn't think it was the sharpest UPL game, and they outshot them by a significant margin, and John Gibson made a couple of really nice saves, and UPL kind of didn't have it, had probably one of his worst performances in the last couple months, which is unfortunate. And I don't think he got helped out by the fact of the Sabres turned the puck over a little bit and gave up some chances, even though they didn't get a lot of chances. It was quality chances to score, and you just can't lose a game at home to the Ducks.
You really can't, and that's the tough thing about it. It's really, if I was a gambling man, which I was for a good stretch there until I lost the Bills-Chiefs game, I decided to call it quits. I would take the over on the Sabres shots per game every game. Goals? No, never. Never would I ever estimate how many goals they score per game, because guess what? Their shots are up there with the best of them. They just don't score.
Well,
that's the thing.
I think that's the frustrating part is you see the last couple of games that, especially some of the games they've lost, they've had a lot of shots.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had a lot of goals. Like the Kings was one of the, in the stretch of games since the All-Star break, one of the games where they didn't have as many shots as they did against Florida, against the Stars, against the Ducks, for example, but they scored 7 goals. And I think that kind of gets into the Sabres overpass, but I just think maybe they've gotten maybe a little bit too much. I know they've gotten goalied a little bit, but maybe have they swung the pendulum too far into shoot first, and they could maybe be in a game where they get 38 shots, maybe get that number down to 30, but have those 30 shots have a more dangerous scoring opportunities than those 38. I think that's something maybe you have to look at. And
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. But I know we do have a clip from Coach Don Granato, Donnie Meatballs. We'll get to that in a few minutes here. You did prepare something. You brought a piece of paper with some writing on it.
I did. I don't know. I think we should do the Don Granato thing first.
All right, let's hit Don Granato if we're ready to play that clip. Here are his thoughts, basically, on what the issue is with the team. So I hope you can get more out of it than I did, because it's pretty much what everyone's been saying all season. So here it is.
The point of last season, to be part of the playoff rush, to push, to have them learn what it took to be in a playoff race, and yet they haven't learned that, or have they learned that?
This is a process, so they're in the process of learning it. This is the obvious. You would hope they would have learned it, right? And you'd hope, and I can remember us talking last year. You can't forecast. I'm not in the forecast business. You wanted me to forecast this season back then, and there's too many elements throughout the league, injuries being one of them, but there's just too many elements, and you're in the middle of this process, and our responsibility is to make sure we're getting better, so when we get through this, we're going to have a better product by going through any adversity, any challenge. And the good indicator for us is we're getting better in the areas we've targeted that we needed to get better in from last year. Now, the scoring, the scoring, obviously, John. I mean, why not?
Well, I mean,
John, we can state the obvious, and that's another obvious. It's all about winning at the end of the day. But there's areas that were targeted that we needed to progress in. We've gotten a lot better in those areas, and obviously the numbers show. What's not there is what we know this team, and we've come to know this team as being very good at, scoring. Right? It's all going to come back at some point, and the foundation's going to be stronger.
Does the mindset need to change, though? I mean, given what you just said to John, I know the team is different, but today felt a little bit like a game last year, and a lot of times last year you guys did outscore your mistakes, but that has not been a consistent theme this year. So if it's not a consistent theme, does the mindset or the approach need to change if that's not something that can be done, I guess, as easy as it once was?
The psyche might need to change. I don't think the mindset or the approach needs to change. The psyche. That's feeling a little bit better, a little bit better about your scoring touch. And obviously that goes with scoring. You know that goal scorers and hitters in baseball, and it's a feel thing. And the guys that I mentioned that had chances tonight, and we know they can do better. And again, it's so it's more of a psyche thing. I don't think it's a mindset or a different approach.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, Sabres head coach Don Granato, courtesy of Channel 7 WKBW here in Buffalo. Matt Beauvais' Twitter, also, if you're interested, it's where I found that clip. The psyche is what needs to change, not the mindsets or the execution. What did you make of that over there? I was the one who found the clip. I want to see Dom's reaction to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's not wrong that every team faces adversity, but it just seems that the Sabres just can't get through it.
Yeah, they've been a revolving door since 2013, really, coaching-wise, and that's it.
As Sean McDermott was once quoted, the light shines brightest on those who come through adversity, and
Sabres are not. They're in the dark.
The reason why they're in the dark. I mean,
yeah.
It's a frustrating. I just know the way other than it's just a frustrating year. It just seems like a complete lost year, which is, when you have that linear growth as a team,
Mhm.
right? Like you had the whole Eichel saga, and then you had that really cool second half, and then the next year, you had a 90-point season, her highest in 10 years.
Everything was looking up.
Everything's on its way up, but now
Mhm.
you have this year where it's like I don't even know what the heck is going on.
Right. You can't understand it. Everyone's regressed. Your star players that have really come out and shown themselves. Tage Thompson regressed after multiple 40-plus point seasons. It's just
It's just a lost year
Mhm.
because I hate to blame injuries because I think blaming injuries is a loser's mentality. But I think some of these guys are just some of these guys aren't playing well. Period. Like
Yeah.
point blank. But like I just feel like Tage is a weird case where it just seems like he had to have like broken his hand or his wrist on that.
When we were there, we watched it
Yes.
happen.
I just don't think he's been able to like every time like his stick handling has just been really off.
Mhm.
Like
It's like they club him up, tape him up, and he's restricted.
that's what I'm
almost.
saying.
Yeah.
Like it is a frustrating year that is just going to be more frustrating, I should say, because I did prepare something for us today.
Yes, this is the white loose leaf paper ripped out of a 3-ring binder or whatever little notebook.
Thank you though.
Yeah, let's see what we got.
So, as many of you listeners may have not known or not, maybe you want to pause it and come back, but on October 11th, well, October 10th, we recorded it, but on October 11th, we aired it, an episode talking about the Sabres and asking unanswerable questions that we don't have the answers to.
Right, like a preseason
Like
preload.
a preseason
Yeah.
kind of like, this is how the season's going to go. Now, I said we were going to talk about this in April, but it's February.
They're not going to play meaningful games in March, so we got to jump the gun on this.
We're going to false start, 5-yard penalty. I think
It's
that
still
was-
first down.
I think that was the same week that the Bills either beat the Giants. I think beat the Giants. So
Ish
it
around
was
there.
a weird
I would
time, weird time for us. But
say. Yeah.
to start off this moment, this moment, I have a quote, an inspirational quote.
Okay.
Quote: "Can't wait for the season to start." End quote. Joseph Michael Cali, 10-10-23.
Oh my God.
I
I can't. Well, could you blame me in that moment
No,
for saying
I
that? No,
don't.
no, you couldn't
It
blame
was
me for that.
inspirational.
It was. It was.
Wow.
It was like the Disney movie. Come on, guys. We got the second half. Come on. It was getting the season going. Come on.
guys, it's on us. Coach is right.
Yeah, that meme. Yeah, we got to find that clip somewhere. That's
Um,
funny.
Unfortunately, both of us predicted playoffs, 98 points. So right now, they're 24, 27, and 4. I think that's close to little 76, something like that. So we're 20 points off our. We both made a big emphasis on the Sabres needing to start off strong. Start off fast. But right now,
They
didn't
did
do
not.
it.
They
Didn't
started
listen to
pretty
us.
much at 500. So
The worst takes we've had, reading back into this, listening to the pod over again, was we were massive UPL haters, and we were massive Patrick Kane haters, and Patrick Kane proved us wrong, so is UPL. Now, Patrick Kane is whatever, because I can assure you that the Sabres probably tried everything they could to sign him, so, we may have been against the idea of Patrick Kane. I pretty confidently could say the Sabres were not, so,
yeah.
but here we go.
Okay.
So the questions to answer that we didn't know at the time, that we could kind of know now. So I broke it down into forwards, defense, and then goaltending. And then we didn't talk about special teams. I could just say right now the power play is
Atrocious.
a main reason why they aren't going to make the playoffs. And
Yeah.
the penalty kill is kind of whatever, which is kind of better than last year. So
They've improved on one half of special teams, but
massive downgrade on the other. But
Yep.
here you go. Question number 1. Does the top line continue to cook? No.
absolutely not. No, that is the farthest thing from the truth. Good Lord. And like you said, it might be due to injury, but
again,
when Kyle Okposo's is on the top line, they're not cooking. I'm telling you that much.
So I'm talking about Skinner, Thompson, Tuck.
Yeah.
Skinner is just his typical streaky self this year. Thompson's at like a 50-point pace. Again, I think hand injury, and Tuck I think is dealing with something. I don't know. He just doesn't seem right to me either. So
No.
I don't know how to explain that. But does JJ Peterka? Question number 2. Excuse me. Does JJ Peterka take the leap after the World Championships? That answer was yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been amazing.
He's been one of the most fantastic players on the ice for the Sabres, and a guy you can count on day in and day out, truthfully. And, him and Middlestat, to me, are the two big ones there. But that question is absolutely yes.
Absolutely. You can make the case that Peterka has been their second best forward. He has 37 points, 19 goals in 55 games. I didn't realize Alex Tuch has 37 points in 48 games, so he's not playing as bad as I thought he was.
No, he's just not.
It doesn't seem like he's impacting
He's
the
not.
game.
Yeah,
Not
right.
Two-way, not
Yeah,
playing two-way.
he's not really showing himself in the game. That's the difference from what you've seen in years past. But yeah, John Jason, a little golf clap for you. That was
Honestly, some of these are more positive than I thought, at least with the forward wise, which is kind of funny.
Okay, all right. What's the next one?
Question number 3: does Mitz build on the second half surge from last year?
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, again,
continues.
44 points in 55 games, leading the team in points and assists at the moment. Yeah, I think that's a resounding yes. So
Yeah,
Okay.
middle stat mode has been activated, and the switch can't turn off now. So that is a yes.
what to make of Peyton Krebs at the end of the year? Well, I can make the thing right now. He has 10 points in 53 games.
No bueno. Is that
ain't-
an answer?
Yeah, that ain't great, Bob.
No, no,
that ain't it.
no.
So I thought he played pretty well yesterday with Benson and Peterka in a more offensive role, which again is what we were begging for I don't know, months now. But we'll see how he ends. But it hasn't been good. But maybe playing with more skillful players of Quinn out and all that.
Have to wait and see
gives
on
him an
that one.
opportunity.
That question still has a mini question mark at the end of it. Then
Yeah. What do they get from Benson? Pretty solid. I mean, 16 points, 44 games. I think he's been hampered by the fact of he's shooting like 8.7%. I think he's under expected goals by like 4, which is tied with Cousins. So like he's having a very good 18-year-old season.
yeah, first season in the NHL, he has kind of proven himself little by little out there. I think you can only go up from here, whereas the team has gone down to their others. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares in the later seasons as he grows in the NHL.
Next question. Question number. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You didn't number them on the paper? You got to
No,
count?
I just did like a dash. So this is my bad. That was a mental error.
Gotcha.
6. Does Jordan Greenway bounce back? Yes. I mean, we're seeing him really come on. I think he's been solid defensively all year. 19 points in 43 games. I think he has 6 goals in his last 11 games. And I think he also got one robbed by Cousins against Minnesota. So, honestly, he's played – again, I don't think people would have a problem with Jordan Greenway if he was playing bottom 6 minutes. Now,
Right.
I know he's technically 7th in ice time. So, but, like, if he was, like, where Gergensons was in the lineup as your 4th liner, yes, 3 mil is a little expensive, but very good penalty killer. Been good defensively all year.
Good physical player.
Good physical player, and kind of giving you 19 points in 43 games is about 37 points. Like, that's a solid season for a bottom 6 forward.
And honestly, last season, I know everyone was kind of sleeping on him a little bit coming into this season, but he's really, that question answers yes. He's improved upon last season for sure.
Last question for the forward group, question number 7.
Okay.
The biggest question that we allude to. Did they do enough at forward with Jack Quinn out?
No.
No.
That is a resounding no. I think that's the no heard around the world right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. That is the one thing anyone listening on any podcast that talks about the Sabres, any show, anything that talks about the Sabres, that is a resounding no. 100%.
Yep. Just no, they didn't. It's as simple as that.
The running joke between Dom and I, Jack Quinn goes down in the offseason. We didn't have enough time to get anything.
Olofsson. Victor Olofsson, when we were doing
Didn't have enough time to fix it.
When we were doing this episode, Victor Olofsson was the top 6 forward. He was on the Cousins Peterka line. You know what Victor Olofsson does now? He can't even play over Eric Robinson. So
right.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. Of course not. Even if the Patrick Keane thing, whatever. But for them, and they ran it back forward wise. Their depth forwards of Gergensons and Oposa, who have been both pretty whatever. I think Gergensons has 4 goals and 0. You and I had the same amount of assists as Zemgus Gergensons.
Wow. What a stat. Love that.
So, it's trash. I'm sorry. I know he's supposed to be like, nothing happens when he's on the ice.
Right. But it's still, like, you think he would do something out there, you know?
Yeah, so they didn't improve him on the bottom 6, and they didn't fill that need, and heck, it's still a need, even if Benson's Greenway and Mitz having good alright season. But
you're right though. A lot of more positive answers for the forward group. I'm going to be honest with you. There were a lot of yeses in there.
Honestly, okay. I think the individual question, sure, but like
as a whole, no.
As a whole, no.
Yeah.
Because like as a whole, like I'm sorry that the top line continue to cook has just taken a massive dump.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
it's like trickle down dump.
Krebs,
It's on all of
a
it.
lot of them, like I mean, we did do like JJ Mitz. Greenway, Benson, like those 4 guys were out there question, but like that was a dump. If they shouldn't have made any more moves, that was a dump. Krebs has been a dump. Sorry, guys. I think I'm a bit more than
It's
dump.
trickle down
But, like,
dumponomics.
even
Come on.
even Cousins has been kind of not his best season as well. So and Jack Quinn hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like unfortunate, but he hasn't. So and
What do all those dumps combine for? A dumpster fire of an offense.
That was good.
That's
that
what
was
it
good.
does, yeah.
Take a bow.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. I can't stand up. Mike's gonna move, and then the setup's all off. So,
But
Here we
that
go.
was good. But and again, none of the forward prospects have been able to, other than Benson, who I don't even know if we consider a prospect anymore, been able to make a real impact on the team. Which
no, they haven't been able to really go out there and do anything. So, I mean, on a rough team from your skill players, that's kind of expected, though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
it just
So.
is what it is. But
Mhm.
defensively now,
Uh-huh.
question number 1 for the defense. We'll break it down this way. Does OP take a sophomore leap? The answer to that question is no.
Not really.
Not really. Just he's banged up now. OP. How do I explain this? OP is Owen Power. I should just say his full name. Power, I think, is like a basketball player that is kind of underrated by his. He's really big. He does a lot of things. Maybe not in the box score, but he cannot shoot the 3 ball. Owen Power cannot shoot the puck.
Absolutely not.
Like he needs to talk to Rasmus Dahlin. He needs to spend the complete summer out, I think, in Sweden, working with whoever Rasmus Dahlin worked on to fix his shot. Because Owen Power has 2 goals. He has a under 3% shooting percentage. He needs to become more of a threat scorer. I know he does the unselfish play and he does creates offense through his passing, but he needs to add that element of his game.
You got to be able to shoot the puck. It has to happen. And truthfully, I don't know. Dom and I, and also the producer Mooch, we did a slap shot thing down on the ice after a game one season. And I mean, did any of us make it? If I'm thinking back correctly, did anyone make it out of us? No. Head shake. No. Did you make it?
God, no.
I didn't make it. You didn't make it. Did Mike Marino make it? That's the question. We will never. We won't have the answer to. So I don't think he did.
Dude, I don't think he did. I think it was.
So I honestly, we might need to go see the same guy in Sweden and do a workshop with OP and maybe see what we can do. But yeah,
get him on the pod.
Get him on the pod. What do you need to do, man? Come on. I don't know. It's just he did not take that sophomore leap at all.
No,
so.
it's kind of that sophomore slump a little bit.
Yeah, maybe he'll take the junior leap. We don't know.
Hopefully. Was it smart to stay with Yoki Haru? I forgot how much we hated Yoki Haru in this episode.
We did.
I'm gonna be positive on this one. I think Yoki Haru has been kind of fine. Like
Yeah.
I think at least I've been consistent. You have been consistent as well, of both saying that he's a bottom pair guy, and I think it is pretty clear that he's been very good in that role. When he plays
fits.
that role,
He's the puzzle piece that fits in the spot.
He's a bottom pair. He's
He
a
is.
bottom pair right shot, and you
Yep.
need a bottom pair right shot. Like
Works.
now, are they gonna pay him because he's an RFA? I don't know. I'm not really comfortable paying him $4 million. I don't think anyone is, but
Offer him some cheap money and see if he takes it.
or they just make him go to arbitration. But yeah, I shouldn't say I've been impressed with Yoki Haru, but
He's not. He's not tanking expectations. He's playing.
He's been
fine.
solid. He's been
Yeah.
really solid.
Mhm.
I forgot in this episode we loved Connor Clift and Eric Johnson. Jeez, before we knew.
Yeah. And little did we know Jacob
Yeah.
Bryson would be 6-0 in games played on the ice. Isn't that real?
He's not 6-0 anymore though.
No, not technically.
Yeah,
6-1 now. Is that what he
Something
is?
like that. I don't remember this. Yeah, it's 6.
Still a
7-2.
travesty of a stat. That's all I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
gross. So
Our next question:
Mm-hmm.
was it a mistake to not add a top 4 D-man?
Yes.
That's the question is a resounding yes. I'm gonna combine 2 of them because it goes hand in hand with another one. The biggest question we had going in for the defense was: does Matthias Samuelsson stay healthy?
how about no?
I think that one's a very simple question. If you just look at the stats,
Survey says you're going to get the maximum number of points.
And
That's what
he's
survey
played
is telling you.
he's played 41 games and he's done. So
Mm-hmm.
he's literally played 50% of the year, right on the nose, and you just can't have it. Like, I just don't know what to say. Like, this is a guy that they've been counting on to be one of their top 4 D-men, and he just has shown time and time again that he cannot play more than 55 games a year. And for a team that doesn't have the greatest quality of defensemen, just not good enough. I mean, we want Yoki Haru to be a bottom pair defenseman, but when Samuelsson gets injured, that makes Yoki Haru to come up. And now that Overpowered's injured as well, now it makes Yoki Haru the 2. It's Jesus, this is went downhill fast.
Yeah.
So.
No, it crashed and burned. No, I'm not going to make that joke.
But
gonna say like a rocket.
It comes down. It adds to the other point of, was it a mistake not to add another top four? I think they need to.
They need to. They needed to in the beginning of the season. Your defense is so slow. Your offense has been playing down to it all season, and that's part of the problem you're having.
I just don't know how they quote unquote afford it, because when you have two guys like Darlene and Power making 19 combined, Samuelson's making a little over 4, something like that. So you're probably
right around there.
You're probably like combined 23, 24 mil. Like, you need to add another guy, but he's got to be like at the 5 mil mark, and at that point you're putting $30 million into 4 defensemen. Is just a lot. So I don't know what to do with that. And then our last question: does Ryan Johnson make an impact? At that point, he did not make the roster. He was,
but was NHL ready?
Was NHL ready, and we were right on that one because he's been very solid. I think he's been exactly what the Sabres need. I mean, again, I think if you go into next season with, a Darlene, Samuelson, Power, fill in the blank defenseman, and have Yoki Haru and Ryan Johnson as your 6, I think that's a pretty nice. Well, I mean, 5 of the 6, and you figure out the other top 4. I think that's a pretty good 6. So, yeah, I just Eric Johnson was a whiff, and Connor Clifton, I have no idea how they're going to get rid of that contract. 2 years, 3.3 left after this season. So
yeah, I mean, we're going through this, and how optimistic were we at that point?
Yeah.
I mean, we were pretty. I feel like we were still kind of balanced for sure, but we had high hopes going into the season, and it's just that crash that's the hardest part.
the crash and burn, Thomas Rhett.
Yes, that's where I saw Kevin Adams over the summer too. That concert, I think maybe. No, that was during the opener. I didn't go during Thomas Rhett's set, but yeah,
So,
tough.
Yeah,
Tough.
The defense, definitely been
Disappointing.
Especially the top guys like Yoki Haru and Ryan Johnson are probably the highlights, and when that happens, it's not a great year.
No.
But,
Yeah, no, it's not the best. So
going to goalies though,
I can't wait to hear this.
we were
one.
massive Levi supporters, and
That was
not
after I saw him on
UPL.
the plane ride home from New York City
You're
after the Jets loss. Yeah,
So our one question is Levi the guy right now? The answer to the question is no.
absolutely not.
Um,
Development.
But to his defense, he's been phenomenal now in the AHL. I think he just had a 50 save win against the Toronto Marlies.
He's dialing in pretty good down there. So
I think I'm going to butcher how many games he's played, but I think he's 6-3-2 or something like that. So he's played about 10 games in the AHL, and I believe he has a 930 save percentage. So that's really good to see for potentially maybe getting some playing time next year. I think he should just stay in the AHL for the rest of this year. But
oh yeah, for sure. The fact that they hung on to him so long up here and killed his
Ridiculous.
confidence was absolutely ridiculous. You're going to ruin the talk about psyche downgrade now. You're going to ruin his psyche if you're doing that.
Does Comrie bounce back? No,
Absolutely
I'm
not.
going to talk about that one. What to make of UPL? Solid, man. Like, I don't
Very
know what
solid.
To say. Like,
Coming off the double hip surgery in 2019, the guy is
God,
back
you
with
just-
iron hips.
Every
I mean,
time,
it's
every
true.
time.
I can't believe it.
No. Every time, it's like I'm trying to think of like the perfect example. It's like every time somehow like we bring up the Monday Night Football game we went to with the Patriots. Like you always bring up.
There's
that he's
always
had
the double hip surgery. Because it's just astounding. I mean, the guy, truthfully, he's 23?
I don't have the.
He's in his early 20s. I'll just say that. And he's had double hip surgery, right? And he's playing
24.
goalie. 24. Double hip surgery, playing in the NHL at a very high level. I mean, you got to give the guy the credit. That's a tough thing to come back from. Double hip surgery. Come on.
And our last question.
Oh, gosh.
Did the Sabres make a mistake not adding a veteran goalie behind Levi at the time? I'm gonna say no.
No?
See, I see. This is a tough way to put it because if I say yes, that means they should have added one.
And then
and they
UPL
would've
doesn't have the
blocked
season he has.
UPL.
But could UPL, they would send Levi down anyway,
Sure.
and then UPL comes up and they rotate games together, and he actually.
My thing with the goalies is that maybe I'm doing reverse 180, and maybe I think they should still add a third goaltender in the offseason to play AHL and be solid in the NHL. But like, I would kind of be all right just giving UPL and Levi the crease next year and having like, a 50-32 split or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I'd be too against that. You'd have to see how Levi performs, though, and
Sure.
I don't think they carry 3 goalies by any means.
Oh, no.
They need to stop doing that. That should not be what they do. But you do need a backup plan if Levi does need a little bit more time in Rochester. I'm going to say that right now. You don't want to bank on these two, and then UPL's screwed in the crease pretty much every game because You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you don't want to do that to him, because then he might tank a couple games because he's just exhausted, and then the narrative's back hot and cold, UPL and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that could be the thing there, but I do somewhat agree with what you said.
So those are our questions, and funnily enough, I'm just gonna say this: looking at the statistics, I didn't realize that UPL has never faced a shootout so far this year. Only Levi has. So
And Levi, did he win or lose that shootout?
he definitely lost because it says he saved 1 of 4 shots.
Yep, definitely lost. Okay, so we'll have to see how UPL does. Pending this team gets competitive enough to go to a shootout, that'd be interesting to see. So, yeah, listen. I do want to address this. There was an article written by Mike Harrington the other day for the Buffalo News about the toxicity in KeyBank Center, right? And that's something, I don't know, like after this long, right? 2007 was the last time this team did anything relevant.
Sure. I mean, they made the playoffs a couple times after that.
A couple times after that, but they
never really a
it was
contender.
Right, exactly. The 2007 was the last time they were a contender, whatever. I've been out on the Sabres my pretty much entire childhood, because 2007, 2005, really, last time they were exponentially amazing was we were 3. So, like, I'm sorry, I'm not sitting down. I'm not getting the stats for Sabres hockey with the diapers, you know what I mean? So, we'll have to it's tough to get back into it. They went on that 10-game, 11-game win streak with Jack Eichel when Jeff Skinner was first added to the squad, right? That was a ray of hope back into the team. But no, the soccer coach tanked that one, right? So
now it's this year.
And it's like we used to go to games, right? We went to games quite frequently, all 3 of us, over the past couple of years. I never had an inkling to leave in the third period, because it was, even if they were down by 2, you knew they were in it still. They were going to make it interesting. They were going to make big plays. Something was going to happen that was crazy. This season, where's that? I'm packing up in the third period.
They just
no
chill their
offense.
belly. They chill their belly and die.
Yeah, they roll over. Yeah, they roll over like a possum and just die in the middle of the road. Like, that's just what it is, and that is not fun for the fans to watch. It was different when they were on the up and up, and the expectations were so high this season for a lot of people, including myself, including us.
Including their fans. I'm sorry, including themselves. They
like,
talked about playoffs.
Right, exactly. They said they were a playoff team. That was going to happen. So to have it just completely again, turn into a dumpster fire right in front of your face, it looks like, you've seen Bruce Almighty, right?
I've not.
Okay, so based in Buffalo, he lets the Sabres win the Stanley Cup at one point, right? The city burns down. Like, everything burns down in the city of Buffalo. That's happening, except the Sabres haven't won the Stanley Cup. It's happening because of the opposite, because they just can't seem to get it right, ever. And, like, that is the toughest part about it. And Mike Harrington writes in this article, right? Like, he's in the press box, right? So are the rest of the people in the press box, of course. They go down. The rest of the media, they go down before the game really ends. They're in the elevator to hit the locker room to get the interviews, right? So they don't see this, but the Sabres stop saluting the fans, right? So you're thinking to yourself, okay, what's going on here? Apparently, in here, the Fire Donnie chants are what's really getting under the player's skin. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, let's think for a second here. All right, I know I'm not a professional hockey player by any means, not a professional athlete by any means. Got a torn Achilles from beach lifeguarding. Like, I don't know what happened there. So, anyway, it's just, if you don't like that's being said about your coach, and you've shown you can play, you've shown you can win 7-0 against the Kings. That's the hockey they played last season. If you don't like they're saying that about your coach, how about you play the game? How about you win games? You know what I mean? Play high event hockey. Do the game plan. That's kind of my take on that. What do you think? That might just be the couch coordinator in me.
Sure.
But it's just like, play the game, and that won't happen to your coach. Sorry. Like, that's just what it is at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's a results-driven.
Yes.
I mean, professional sports is really results-driven. And when you haven't made the playoffs in over a decade, when you have this expectation of playoffs, and you're falling completely short, and listen, it's one thing to fall short and be 24, 27, and 4. It's
1 point out. One thing to fall short, 1 point out.
But it's another thing to just be completely awful at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might be different if they were 27, 20, their record, and they were just good at home, but they just sucked on the road. But, like, when people spend money to come see you play, and, too many times this season it's just been a trash game, like, that's a sour taste. And again, you could understand their frustration with the Fire Donnie chant, because I think they really love Donnie, and they don't want to see that.
That's their guy at the end of the day.
That's their guy, but at the same time, like, it's results driven. This is what
His third full year, right?
Third full year, like,
Yeah, at this point, if it's not going the right way, they're gonna figure something else out.
and it's frustrating because I think he's a good guy, and I don't think he's an awful coach.
No.
But the fact that he hasn't been the Sabres just have been unable, we're 55 games into the year, we're almost 2/3 into the way through the year. They've been unable to stop the bleeding per se. They've been unable to stop these slow starts at home. They've been unable to, when they're down one in the third period, they've been unable to generate any offense where it's, they were down 4-3 yesterday. It was a very competitive first two periods, and then the third period happened, and they didn't
just
really
rolled over.
generate anything. They had a couple of chances late.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is how you're going to die? Like,
You're trying to put a Band-Aid on a stab wound, per se. That's what you are.
I just think changes, the vibes are off, and I think changes need to be made, and
do they take the buyout for Granato? That's the question at this point before his extension goes in.
I've been pro-firing Donnie. I think potentially he could be saved. I just think they need to grow up. They need to grow up in this organization, and these assistants that are just,
not getting the job done.
You have Buffalo Sabres in your resume. Like, I just think those guys need to figure out how to put a professional coaching staff together with people that maybe have head coaching experience. And I think, I don't know what's going on with ownership, but they have a hard cap. Do they have an internal cap, I should say? But they got to figure that out too, because it's kind of just ridiculous. Like, the Sabres are never the team that will take on a crappy contract to get a second-round pick like Arizona has been. And yeah, I know you don't want to pay them the money. That's money for out of the owner's checkbook. But
just here, Pagula, pawn the yacht. Just pay off Donnie's contract. That's all you got to do. Come on, just sell the yacht.
The Sabres just need to be. They're just not a very good run organization. And,
no.
I still have some faith in Kevin Adams, but it's dwindling. I like Donnie, but I think
might need a little change. Whether
bare minimum, the assistants should be just gone. They need
Yes.
a complete. If they're going to keep Granato, they need to completely clean house around him.
Yeah, and
Just
that's the
start
thing
fresh.
too.
New voices.
And we've said too. Adams, I think, gets an off season. Right, he gets the off season to see if he does the same thing as he did last off season. I'm sorry, you're done. But if you actually go out and add some key pieces that this team need, I can see that. But Donnie. It's the same thing with McDermott, though, in a way, right? They weren't getting the job done. They were 6-6. They hadn't gone past the divisional round in 3 years. It's just kind of like that's what happens. The heads get called for at a certain point because it's result driven, like you said.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right on that perspective. I just think it's a little. I've never been pro the Granato McDermott comparison because McDermott's made the playoffs and
right. I was stretching for that.
But you're right about it being results driven because what I think was more frustrating is that in the NFL, I know they added 7 teams out of the playoffs, so it's 14, but less than half the league makes the playoffs in a single elimination. It's significantly harder to make the playoffs year in, year out. It's significantly harder to, go deep because it's single elimination. You could lose to anyone. You could beat anyone at the same time. In the NHL, I'm sorry, but half the teams 16 out of 32 make it.
Yeah, they make it. You can accidentally make the playoffs. That's how crazy
16
it
out of
is.
32 make it, and it's a best of 7. We just saw the greatest regular season team in the Boston Bruins lose in 7 games to the Panthers. So
who made it in 1 point ahead of the Sabres last season?
It's unbelievable that they just haven't been able to. Sorry, excuse me, I just hit my mic. But their inability to figure out how to make the playoffs, is just heartbroken. And it's unfortunate, but knowing all of us,
we'll flock right back
next October. Your quote of, sorry for rustling paper, but can't wait for the season to start. It will be 10-10-24. I mean, it's just that's what it is.
It's gonna happen again.
But that's what fandom is about, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But
I'll stick with it, just maybe not through the third period of every game.
But I need to see some real changes after the season.
Yeah,
about their approach to roster building and their coaching staff.
Yep. And that'll be what keeps Kevin Adams around or not. Mm-hmm. And that'll be the key
long
there.
Term. Yep.
Long term. You need to build the organization, and you're, like you said, the assistant coaching, the assistants, not happening. So you need to clean house if you want to keep Granato, or you do the early buyout for Granato's contract. So, You will have to wait and see what happens there. But I think this is the deepest we've dove into the Sabres this season just because, I don't know, my mood's like way down from when we started after talking about all this. But anyway, I think that wraps it up for this edition of the Buffalonian podcast. The toxic environment inside KeyBank Center. We'll have to wait and see how it fares for the rest of the season. But you heard it here first. They will not be playing meaningful games in March, in my opinion. What do you think before we end here? Any meaningful games in March? Mathematically, they're alive. Anything can happen. So we'll have to wait and see. They'll hang on to that 2% for the whole season like they did last year. But I'm Joe Cali. As always, I'm joined by Dom Loss. Thank you to our producer, Mooch, for everything you do for the show. Whew. I'm going to add this in here, too. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching the video version, make sure to like and subscribe. That'd be great. And also on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. You know, it always helps to grow the show. And we're going to be getting some guests on here pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. But that does it. Dom, how do we always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
All Sabres pod, but go Bills, baby. Let's go.